Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, President Buhari vows to recover all funds looted by past administrations, reaffirms optimism towards tackling insecurity, corruption and economic challenges. Captains of industry offer advice on rising above economic challenges through proper management of economic vision and blueprint. Assault agitations in the southeast turned violent. 2 policemen also killed during protests in Delta State. And former Chadian President Hissène Habré sentenced to life jail imprisonment in Senegal for human rights violations.
On business news tonight, federal government sets up committee to reclaim loans issued by AMCON.
And on sports news tonight, Nigeria's Flamingos drawn with Brazil, England and Korea DPR in Group C of the 2016 Under-17 Women's World Cup.
The president says he will carefully work with judiciary and the international community to ensure that all funds stolen by officials of the past administration are fully recovered. President Muhammadu Buhari said this at a launch meeting with State House correspondents to mark his 1 year in office. The president reiterated that his promise of tackling insecurity and revamping the economy will also be fulfilled. Our State House correspondent Chukwuma Onekusi reports.
For the second time running, President Muhammadu Buhari is here meeting with State House correspondents in the presidential villa. President Buhari will not forget that phone call from former President Goodluck Jonathan in a hurry. Though the handover proper was not what he envisaged, he says his experience in the last 1 year is different from what he thought. The experience that nearly affected the change mantra that dominated the campaigns. And on the $2.1 billion meant for security and effort to recover looted funds.
People who are trusted, the most recent one I think which we have recovered $2.1 billion. Not naira, was given by the government the military to buy hardware to fight the insurgents. We have taken part of the country and hosted their plans. And they just said, and just as we have eaten now, they said and bought it and put it in their own account. They didn't even bother most of them to hide it. Imagine $2.1 billion. So we are still trying to get the cooperation of international community and so on, and get as much of it back as possible. And we have to do it with a lot of respect to the judiciary. This we have to experience gradually. We can't go out and talk too much as I'm talking to you. We have to allow the judiciary, we give them the facts, the names, the country, the bank account, for them to do successful prosecution. If we talk too much, the technicalities will come in and we will realize less than what we wanted to realize.
The president says security, fight against corruption and revamping the economy still remain the tripod on which his administration stands and the main focus that cannot be derailed. Chukwuma Onekusi, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the president has asked members of the National Assembly to pass budgets of the Federal Capital Territory and the Niger Delta Development Commission before June 13 to enable them execute their statutory mandate. President Buhari made the appeal when he hosted federal lawmakers at a Democracy Day dinner at the presidential villa. He restated his administration's commitment to observe the principle of separation of powers, promising that the executive will not interfere with the functions of the legislature or the judiciary. In his speech, the Senate President, Bukola Saraki, congratulated Nigerians for 17 years of uninterrupted democracy, describing it as no mean feat.
I am conscious that on June 9, 2016, the National Assembly will complete one legislative year. May I appeal to you to consider and pass these submitted bills, particularly the statutory budget of the Federal Capital Territory, the Niger Delta Development Commission budget, and the budget of statutory corporations. These bodies cannot execute the statutory mandate nor incur expenditure for unless their budgets are approved by the National Assembly. I hereby restate the commitment of this administration to observe the principles of separation of powers, which defines and delineates the functions and powers of each of the government. Thus far, we in the executive have restricted ourselves to our constitutional roles. Therefore, I as President and we as executive arm of government will not interfere in the functioning and process of the legislature nor the judiciary.
It is not easy for a country to go through 17 years of uninterrupted democracy and also to be able, through the electoral process, decide in changing one government to another. I think we all agree with me that our democracy is no longer at puberty, but our democracy has matured. And in congratulating Nigerians and yourself, I think it has come at the right time.
President Muhammadu Buhari and Senate President Bukola Saraki. As the nation addresses the Buhari administration after 1 year in office, Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka says the government inherited a burden that may take a while to lessen, but it must sustain efforts at improving the economy. He was speaking to Channels Television in Johannesburg, where he spoke at a public lecture entitled Politics, Culture and the New Africa Today. We also spoke to renowned Nigerian author and playwright Professor Kole Omotosho, who says the current administration has ticked good on a number of little things, but that there must be more effort to alleviate the suffering of the people.
Yeah, this administration has inherited a heavy baggage. That's what I want to say, a heavy baggage. And while I'm critical in certain aspects of the priorities of the government, I think that to clear up the mess left by previous administrations is going to take quite a while, especially in the section of the economy. And so I don't use words like optimism or pessimism. I'm just pragmatic. I look at what there is on the ground. And of course, wherever I can intervene, I do, both privately and publicly.
There are little things, structural inputs that are going to make governance better. To that extent, we're contributing to the development and growth and possibilities of democracy. So we are going in the right direction. But in the process, we need to do so many things. We need to look at not just the suffering of people, the way people seem to indulge in bearing suffering. It's as if even if you try to solve the problem for them, they will prefer to be suffering and smiling.
Former Minister of Information and Elder Statesman Chief Edwin Clark has joined those calling on the Buhari administration to implement resolutions of the 2014 National Conference held in Abuja. He made the appeal at a press conference on State of the Nation and the way forward. According to him, the 600 resolutions from that conference dealt with issues of true federalism, which, if implemented, would move the country forward.
There is a lot that the National Conference produced. 600 resolutions. We made draft constitutional amendments. I'm pleading with the present government in very many areas true federation whereby the states became beggars. Federal government has to bail them out. They cannot pay salaries, and so on. Many of us believed in regional government, and we believe that the 6 zonal regions should form the basis of a federation, and not states that cannot pay their salaries, not local governments that do not exist. They are branches of the governors of those states. Whatever they tell them, that's what they do. So there's very much to do. A federation where physical federalism was recognized. But today, the military people have changed it. We are near military form of government. We no longer practice federalism. That's why the regions are in trouble. That is why the local governments are in trouble. The unity of this country cannot be broken by anybody. But we have to examine the structure of this country. We cannot remain like this. We have to have a proper federalism, federal system of government, where everybody is equal.
Elder statesman Chief Edwin Clark. In part 2, after the break, we continue our review of the president's 1 year in office. Today we take a look at the performance of the judiciary. Please stay with us.